everyone, welcome to Zon in Canada. I'm your host, Jesse Betteridge. This episode is going to be our second roundtable discussion about the past and possible future of anime on Canadian TV. Before we start, let's go around the table and have everyone introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Randy. I'm from Winnipeg, Manitoba.
Do you have anything you want to plug, Randy?
I really don't.
Okay.
No.
Okay. I'm Leandra. I'm also from Winnipeg. I'm a huge anime fan and collector of 80s girls' toys.
I'm Phil. I'm from the GTA. I do a podcast called Just What Am I Listening To, which is over at jwailt.blogspot.ca. It's just kind of a hobby thing, but that.
It's a lot of fun to listen to.
Well, thank you.
Hi, I'm Ian. You can find me on Twitter at IanRW. I am from Kenora, Ontario. I live in Kenora, Ontario. Where is that? That is right by Winnipeg, and I took my education at the University of Winnipeg.
Alright, great. So just like last time, we're going to go around the table with 3 questions. First, we're going to ask everyone about their favorite memories of anime on Canadian broadcasters. The second, I'll ask what they feel is the biggest missed opportunity for anime on TV in this country. And third, I'm going to ask about any hopes or expectations they might have for the future. So, let's get started. Randy, you go first.
Okay, well, my, earliest memory of anime on TV was actually, The Wonderful Wizard of Oz that, aired on MTN at the time, I believe. And that
MTN?
was MTN, yeah. It was, a local station that, became A Channel and then is currently City TV.
Oh, right. It was the educational broadcaster there, right?
I believe so, yes. Yeah, they had their own kids block with, their own little mascots and stuff. It was an interesting program, and that's where lots of stuff aired, like Sailor Moon aired there, I'm pretty sure as well.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. But Wonderful Wizard of Oz was, one of the shows that I found out later was anime, which was very interesting because it always had this interesting look to it. And similarly, I remember watching, Maya the Bee, which I also learned was anime later, which also kind of blew my mind. The first show I watched that I realized was actually anime was, Sailor Moon, because, Anti-Gravity Room put a segment on it showing the comics and showing that it was from Japan. And I always thought that it was, very interesting to see that, oh, this stuff didn't come from here. This stuff was from another place. And that's why it looked so different and felt so different. And that's why it had plot. And I always thought that was really interesting. My other favorite memory is probably when Bionic started. I had been watching Toonami for, years at that point because my grandparents had, a satellite dish that got channels and, we briefly had the US satellite illegal stuff that happened for a while, to get the Cartoon Network stuff. And seeing it on TV in a way that was accessible was really, really cool. And I think probably from all that stuff, I really attached to Gundam Seed, even though it's definitely not the best show anymore.
I don't know, I think especially the second half holds up pretty well.
I think it does too. I'm actually a very staunch defender of it.
Yeah.
I know the reputation it has.
Last good Gundam show, maybe.
I know, I hold that Flay is one of the best characters in anime, period. And I will never sway from that opinion. I really like that character.
She was definitely a realistic character, even if not a lot of people could relate to her.
She was, and I've gotten, some very fun reactions when I tell people that, a lot of the time.
She's the Betty Draper of Gundam.
She's my least favorite character of the show.
I don't blame people for having that sentiment, but.
Oh no.
Yeah. I remember, when YTV aired the finale, it was actually the same weekend as an Anime Evolution once, and they screened the last 2 episodes, at the con, because due to the conflict. And I remember during the scene when Flay dies, everyone in the room cheered. Oh. And, it was a little sad, but, kind of understandable. But yeah,
That's
I think.
a reaction for you.
Yeah. But yeah, second half of Seed is great. I think it's some of the best TV Gundam ever.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's everything, we'll move on to Phil next.
Alright, so my memories of anime on Canadian TV were a lot more of the shows for young children. I was a young child during the Knots. So I remember basically all the shows trying to sell you toys, like Beyblade, and I remember Spider Riders that often brought up Anna Twitter show, I remember watching lots of Spider Fighters, which is really weird to me because I'm arachnophobic, but I watched Spider Riders all the time.
Did that help you deal with it?
No, it made it worse. But yeah, so I remember all of the kind of the kids shows and some of the co-pros that were done with YTV, and it all kind of is hazy to me on which is on what network, was on what network at the time. But I remember watching one of the Super Deformed Gundam shows, and my grandparents knew I liked it, so they went out and bought me a bunch of little toys that were from the show. That's kind of my fondest memory is of Super Deformed Gundam when I was like 13 or something. I don't know. But
I thought they had already pulled the toys off the shelves by the time it aired in Canada.
no, that I've still got them somewhere. They're just little cheap plastic things.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, so mine's a lot of the toy stuff. Some late night Dragon Ball, kind of when I was allowed to stay up, after 9 o'clock. I'd be in the basement and Dragon Ball would come on and I wouldn't know what was going on, but it was awesome. And of course Sailor Moon, because how do you not watch Sailor Moon at some point?
Yeah, it was inescapable.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But by the time I was a teenager and interested in anime, it had pretty much disappeared from television altogether. So
I guess you would have mainly been watching S and Supers at that time.
Probably. I couldn't tell you specifics of what I remember. It's all very hazy.
Okay, Leandra, you next.
Okay. So some of the shows I watched when I was a kid, some of my fondest memories. I remember watching Astro Boy and Speed Racer. I watched some of the Maya the Bee as well, and the Wizard of Oz one too, but I didn't know at the time that any of that was anime. And Samurai Pizza Cats, that was one of my biggest favorite ones that I watched. Sailor Moon is a really big one for me too, like everyone else. It was one of those shows I would come home after school and watch and just loved it so much. Pokemon was a big favorite of mine too in the 97 era. Dragon Ball Z, Digimon, Gundam Wing. That's pretty much it. But I loved all of those.
Okay. Alright, so we'll move on to Ian next.
Okay, so my introduction to anime is a bit different from the typical Canadian story of DBZ, Sailor Moon, Pizza Cats. I didn't really respond to Sailor Moon and DBZ as much as other people my age did. Even then, I found the emphasis on the repetitive formula and the monster fights to be pretty limited to my imagination, and they didn't click with me. I didn't stick with them. I did watch more Pizza Cats, and I liked a lot of the humor, but I really didn't stick with it either. And I found once Pokemon came along, it took the fourth wall elements and the zaniness of Samurai Pizza Cats, and it just dialed it down quite a bit so that it was more enjoyable. That was the first show I watched on a day-to-day basis. I could enjoy the characters, I could enjoy the stories for a while. I mean, I gave up on it after the GS ball or whatever.
Oh yeah. If I recall correctly, that story never actually went anywhere.
It did not. It was supposed to, but they decided to make a movie instead.
And Pokemon's a comedy. I understood that, but again, it was too much. It was too much for my life to continue watching Pokemon.
Well, the show is still probably one of the best video game adaptations ever, at least for the first couple of seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. My interest in anime actually started with a lot of the Western cartoons at the time, because to put in context, the mid-90s, in terms of cartoons, there was a lot of anime influence. You had Batman, the animated series, which was animated in Japan. You had a lot of Transformers still. Transformers being based on a Japanese toy line. You had Power Rangers, not a cartoon, but based on Japanese tokusatsu footage. So all that stuff gave me a cultural awareness of so much coming out of Japan. And once I was on the internet and able to read Usenet, I understood where this came from and what the history was. So I was always curious about anime, but I never got into it until my pre-teens. So then, the big thing for me was when we got Teletoon. I was disappointed as a kid that we didn't get Cartoon Network, of course, but I wasn't that disappointed because I never found the Cartoon Network shows to be all that interesting, frankly. I was more interested in Warner Brothers superhero shows, or again, the mainframe CGI shows like Beast Wars and Reboot. So when Teletoon came along, I was actually more impressed by Teletoon's first offerings than I think I would have been with Cartoon Network. So then the two biggest influences on my expectations of anime and what anime could do would have been in 1999, 2000, that year when I got to see for the first time Macross Plus and Cyber 6. Because I noticed that Macross Plus took all the toyetic formulas that I was indoctrinated with as a kid, from Power Rangers, from Transformers, and it dialed it down so drastically that you were left with a science fiction story and a relationship drama and a completely captivating visual and musical package that was just spellbinding. And as for Cyber 6, you take the superhero elements that we've seen from the DC animated projects like Batman and Superman, and you put a female lead, an adult female lead, which is completely different than any of the other anime that I was watching. Now, of course, Cyber 6 isn't an anime, but it's a hybrid Japanese-Canadian production.
It's a unique beast, for sure.
Yes, a very
It's close
unique
enough in my
beast.
mind.
Yeah.
But the animation was just so striking. The characters were just so striking. The Western scripts were never striking or very good, but overall, I think we look on it 15 years in the past. On one sense, it's a business failure, but on the other sense, I do think of it as an artistic success, and certainly maybe the bright shining moment in certainly Teletoon's attempt to get into the anime business, but probably most of North America's attempt to make their own anime.
It's got a good cult following now, especially with the new release from Discotek.
That does not surprise me at all.
Yeah.
It was just so different.
That DVD was the first time I watched it actually in order was that DVD. Every other time was just what I could catch on late night TV, but I was, a young child and very confused.
Yes, yeah, same. I used to just catch random episodes as a kid as well. I never really watched any of it in sequential order before, so it's pretty interesting to see it.
I was always baffled by the arm hair. That always stuck out to me. I was like, what is it with that
Well,
hair?
you know what's funny about the arm hair is that in the comic they draw the pubic hair the same way.
Ah!
And, which I always found really interesting. But yeah, with Cyber 6 it's neat because, in so many episodes you have there are a few episodes where it seems like it's utilizing visual storytelling in a way that almost seems to go against the actual scripted dialogue that we're hearing. You kind of get this sense of the Canadian writing butting heads with the story plotting that you see at the animation level sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was just because the narrative of these two first questions, I felt that Macross Plus and Cyber 6 were really the flagships for Teletoon. If we think in 1999 and 2000, well, what did they have? They had their American acquisitions. They had some Canadian they had their Canadian content, but late night prime time, they really set an example that they never followed since, but that's more of a question 2 thing. And I think for a lot of people, Teletoon is probably synonymous with Cyber 6, though I don't believe Teletoon was actually a partner with NOAA or TMS in that show.
Yeah, no, I don't believe they were actually directly involved with it.
And again, after that, I do have strong memories of what I consider the period where I had to consume anime on YTV. It wasn't a very long period, but I did start with Gundam Wing. So Gundam Wing just celebrated its 20th anniversary. I think even its staunchest defenders would probably say it's a hit and miss show. I knew at a time there were episodes and arcs that were much better than others. It is wall to wall with politics and completely pseudo-intellectual dialogue, no character development, no humor. But again, it was totally different than whatever we've seen from cartoons in the past. It was a complete one-season show with 49 episodes, which completely serialized. You had to follow every day. It was aired 5 days a week. And even though I wouldn't classify it more than a mediocrity, I do think it was a much watched show at the time.
I never got into Gundam Wing until Endless Waltz, honestly. That's the only part that I actually connected to.
Well, that's tricky because in the original air date in 2000, Endless Waltz aired before the show.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
I agree with you. I did get involved into Endless Waltz first, but I had no idea what was going on until they showed the remaining episodes.
Yeah, that was pretty screwed up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had dropped off of the show like within 5 episodes when I realized that it wasn't Robot Sailor Moon. I saw like these 5 pilots. I'm like, oh, they're gonna be a team. They're gonna like fight the bad guy, and then it wasn't that, and I was like, well, not watching this anymore.
The funny thing is,
and then the movie was way better for me.
Yeah, the funny thing is, the story editor of Gundam Wing, Dragon Ball Z, Sailor Moon, and Inuyasha, and Naruto is all the same story editor. So he worked on all the shows. Yeah.
I guess you could say he had a magic touch for shows that lent themselves well to localization on TV.
Yeah. Yeah. And then continuing on that, there was that break for 3 years till we got Inuyasha. Now, I think what's so special about Inuyasha is not that it was this must-see anime for anime fans, because I don't think a lot of people who would generally buy anime DVDs would want to watch Inuyasha. I think Inuyasha was a perfect blend of an anime show that would work well on TV. It's not a Cowboy Bebop, it's not Evangelion, but it's perfect for TV. It has lots of episodes. It has a perfect blend of demographic between boys and girls. Escaflowne did that too, but Inuyasha, I think, took that to another level. YTV treated well. They put on 2 episodes a night, which was a great idea. I think it would have been lost if it was on 5 days a week. I'm glad they did reruns, but I think that really did deserve a once a week run, but they expanded to 2 episodes, which was smart.
A lot of Inuyasha's appeal relied on anticipation to some degree, whether it was week to week or after a 3-year break with no real anime on the air.
Yes.
So.
Yes. And I think the show holds up better than say it did while watching it. For a current show, it would get boring watching it week after week, which eventually it did. So this is why I'm really disappointed that Viz doesn't have any sort of streaming plan for it. They don't have these shows on Netflix, because I think Inuyasha would do really well on Netflix, and people would remember it. And if they watched it again and binge watched it, I think we'd get new opinions about the quality of the show. Just like I think with Cyber 6 now on DVD, we're getting new opinions about the quality of Cyber 6.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It would even be a great title for some, if someone were to broadcast it just on weekdays as a stunt or something. I think that would probably bring in some viewers anyway.
And again, and after that, the 2 Bionic shows that I kept appointment viewing on, and this didn't last, because I was eventually watching shows in Japanese before they were on Bionics, and eventually there were some Bionic shows that didn't interest me. But Witch Hunter Robin and Gundam Seed were the shows I followed religiously and that I enjoyed watching live every week. Gundam Seed was a slow start, but it was fun to have another Gundam show on TV again. And that got you through the first 26 episodes, just the fun of having something like that.
Mm-hmm.
While it got really good in the last half. Witch Hunter Robin, I think that Kevin did an excellent job summarizing it last week when he said that this was completely unlike anything that had been on YTV. Though it's not unlike Cyber 6. It's the same sort, so much more mature tone of Cyber 6, but it was so nice to have that on YTV, to have a slow burn but get very serialized at the end. It was nice. It was nice that first year of Bionics having 3 different types of anime, having the more toy-driven but somewhat adult somewhat sophisticated Gundam Seed with the more mainstream demographic expanding Inuyasha, and then finally having Witch Hunter Robin, which on one level appeals to teenagers, but on the other level is a more subtle, slower show than a lot of younger appealing anime.
It's been funny how so far on both of these episodes, when it comes to Bionic shows, the two that keep coming up are Gundam Seed and Witch Hunter Robin. I'm curious if anybody thinks, those shows were quite notorious for being big failures in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you think that their success here can be attributed mainly to that 3-year break that happened beforehand, or do you think there's actually something about them or something about the way they were marketed or presented here that made them resonate with Canadian viewers better?
I think Seed was more on the value of it wasn't edited anywhere near as much, and it was actually given room to be its own thing. I think that's why Seed was probably wasn't Seed one of the biggest hits, or one of the second biggest hits?
They aired it 4 times.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And they stripped it on weeknights too.
Mm-hmm. And it did well enough for them to bring over Destiny for some reason.
Oh, no, not Destiny.
Hey, it's,
Destiny.
For my fondest memories, I was almost tempted to say Destiny just because it symbolized the fact that the Canadian audience responded to something differently than in the States, and it just signified that big difference. But I knew if I said that, then people would just be tuning out of this show so fast.
The act of getting Destiny was interesting, but Destiny is bad.
Yeah.
It's a literal train wreck, because it starts out pretty strong, and then
It does.
Yeah.
It really does.
Yeah.
The first 10 or so episodes are super good, and then it just plummets.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think if Gundam Seed, it was bad enough that 0079 failed in the US, but I think bringing Gundam Seed into the US, which is somewhat of a remake of 0079, the audience that would have tuned out for 0079 and would have tried again with Gundam Seed, they would have been put off by the fact it was such a remake of a show they didn't like to watch.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting point for sure. The whole Gundam situation was just so different in the two countries that audiences were just used to different things at that point.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, then we'll move on to the second question then. What do you feel is the biggest missed opportunity for anime on TV in this country? And again, we'll start with Randy.
I'm gonna go way later and say that one of the biggest missed opportunities was the way YTV pushed Pretty Cure when they brought it over.
Oh yeah.
And that they didn't at all. It was like a Saturday at 10 a.m. show with various really early morning, screening or showtimes besides that. And I really think Pretty Cure could have done way better. Cause I'm actually really fond of that dub. That dub is, it's a very charming, if not good dub.
One of the better jobs from Calgary for sure.
Yeah, it was absolutely Calgary's best dub.
Yeah, I had no idea how it aired until one time I was flipping through channels and oh, they licensed Pretty Cure here, and I didn't even notice that YTV aired it.
Mm-hmm. And we could have got so much more, but there was absolutely nothing done with it, which is pretty upsetting.
Yeah, there was an ad for it. I know, and I've been trying to find it for convention panels that I do on anime on Canadian TV, but I haven't been able to track it down. To YTV's credit though, they did air it during the Sailor Moon slot for a little while, weekdays at 3:30, but I think it was during the summer, and that kind of time slot doesn't really mean the same thing at this point that it did back in 1995. Yeah. So
especially when you're an adult.
Yeah.
Especially
when you're an adult.
No way to watch it.
I think I remember catching some episodes of Pretty Cure in that time slot, and I don't remember anything else about it, but
I ended up downloading them and watching them while I was doing homework one weekend, and I just plowed through the entire series. It was quite good. I like Pretty Cure a lot.
You like the new shows too?
I like the new shows a lot too. Yes.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, there was a lot of potential with that franchise. Too bad it didn't really go anywhere.
Yeah, and they were supposed to bring over one of the series as Glitter Force, but that never came to fruition, which is too bad because the series they were going to bring over, Smile, is probably one of the best series to watch in episode chunks. There's a lot of really good, strong episode and character writing in those ones, and not bringing it over is a tragedy.
Yeah, I think it would do really well, especially for younger girls.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm a huge fan of, Ojama Jo Doremi, and I can't remember what the English name was when, Fox Kids brought it over, but it was really short-lived too. I think it could have been pretty popular if they did proper marketing or pushed it a little more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you don't see very many of those kind of magical girl shows targeted directly and specifically at young girls anymore in Japan, but when they do bring one out, usually it's huge.
Mm-hmm.
And they really milk it hard. So I guess it is kind of too bad that we don't see too many of those come out over here. But
yeah, for sure.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say, as a girl, like, if I were a little girl, I think I would have really loved those if they would have had something like that when I was a kid. But yeah, I honestly think that they're missing a big opportunity.
Yeah. Actually, I work in the school system, and a few years back at the lunch program, there was a TV, and for about a good solid 2 or 3 weeks, it was too cold to go outside the whole time. So I would start showing, I show like English language anime, like, I showed them Canon, and they really like Canon. And
Awesome.
on a whim, I put on one of the Japanese episodes of Doki Doki Precure, and they, like, clung to that like no one's business. And it was in Japanese, like, they didn't care, just the like, the action and, like, just the colors of the series.
Yeah, the
just,
colors,
like,
yeah.
just, like, stuck them to it, which is
that's
really
awesome.
interesting. Yeah, I that was the biggest surprise. And, like, Sailor Moon had no reaction from them whatsoever, and I was
Huh.
a little shocked about that. Like, Sailor Moon, no reaction, Pretty Cure, huge, Canon, huge. Which is
Wow.
kind of the weirdest one, cause, like, you wouldn't think Canon would have that impact, but, like, all of the, like, macho 6th graders were, like, glued to the TV for that too.
Oh, that's awesome.
It was
I love Canon.
quite amazing. Yeah. Another missed opportunity, I think, was not getting, Standalone Complex, second
gig.
Second gig,
Yeah.
yes, exactly, yeah. Cause, like, that second gig is way better than the first one, I think. There's a lot more action, and it's a lot more, like, less philosophy and more action, which I think would have worked better.
And they did an episode based on Taxi Driver. How awesome is that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's too bad. I know a lot of people were hoping that Space was gonna rescue it, like, kind of like they did with Farscape, but they weren't interested.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Too bad, cause that would have, like, worked really well.
I think that's in total legal limbo now, isn't it? I don't think I think it's inevitable that manga is gonna just kind of get the rights in their entirety now, but
Well,
yeah, I believe manga still has the rights to it.
isn't manga the master license holder for Ghost in the Shell?
They were on the production committee, I believe. I know Bandai Entertainment was on the production committee.
As I thought they had Bandai distribute the TV show and everything that's not the first movie, but they were still kind of the master license holder for international rights, or at least English speaking rights.
well, they'll have that first movie forever.
Mhm.
Yes, sure, or as long as they exist anyway.
Well, like, that's the only thing they have. I haven't seen manga put out a new release in years.
Well, they put out that, the Blu-ray of it just last year. Yeah.
I actually got the UK one because it came in a steelbook, and it's the same disc as the North American one. It has both regions on it. If you put it in region A, it's a Anchor Bay logo. If you put it in region B, it's a Manga Entertainment logo. That's the only difference.
That series had a weird release here. Like, the limited editions had something different with the music, right? Like Dolby Digital track besides that.
There was a mastering error on the DVD. That was at a time when both manga's always had replicating and authoring problems in their entire sorted run, but Bandai was starting to have a lot of problems between 2005 to did they ever get better with DVDs? Because I think after 2005, I think they were always having problems till the end of their life after that.
I sent a number of discs back to them for replacement.
Yeah, I had to, like, take a box set to, like, multiple HMVs trying to get replacements until, like, every disc was the right disc, and that was
the easiest thing to do was just to mail it to them directly and have them send you the replacement straight to Bandai.
Yeah, but I was lazy.
I mean,
lazy enough to go around the city to different HMVs.
Put this in perspective. 2001, 2002, the only major issues with Bandai Entertainment DVDs was that I think a couple volumes of Escaflowne wouldn't play on the PS2. That was basically it. Then after 2005, the floodgates.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, their Gundam Seed discs are great, so that's all I really care about.
Except for
That was a set that I didn't have, the complete collection.
Yes, except for the complete collection.
Oh, right. Well, I mean,
Mhm.
I have the original discs, so
Yes.
they're all good.
Yeah, I had to eventually cause every time I got replacement discs, they kept not working, so I ended up going to Anime North and just buying the singles that were bad for $5 each and just doing it that way.
That's another way to do it too.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it for me, for missed opportunities.
Alright, great. So, in that case, we'll go on to Phil next.
Yeah, I think most of what I would say were missed opportunities have been thoroughly covered in the previous show and this one. I think the only opportunity that they maybe could have been interesting was when the Toonami revival happened, if they tried to at least do a test to see if something like that would work on Canadian television. I was in first year university when that Toonami revival started and Toonami went back on the air. I'm like, oh great. Me and my roommates are up Saturday night late. We'll watch anime on TV, and there was nowhere to do it. So I think kind of an attempt to capitalize on that's popularity in the States might have been something interesting, but other than that, I think everything else that I would say have been said.
I never really appreciated the Toonami fandom and following until after that relaunch happened. Cause you go to places like Toon Zone and you'd always see really bizarre discussions, people trying to theorize how could they edit this show to make it work on this children's block. And it was they valued the branding more than they valued the integrity of the content, which I always found weird. But, just seeing people rally around that block, it was really surprising to me. Back around 2010, I was just about ready to dismiss the idea of anime really being able to work on Canadian TV anymore. But then I saw the Toonami launch and just saw people rally around that so enthusiastically. It really shows there's a lot of value in that still.
Mm-hmm.
Well, to be fair,
Yeah.
Toonami post-revival is much better across the board than Toonami pre-revival. Generally, I think Toonami was really good pre-Bionics. Toonami was really good after the revival. I don't think Toonami was that great during the Bionics years.
Oh no, certainly not.
No.
Yeah, that was the weakest point for anime on TV in the US in general.
Yes. And frankly, I think the shows we didn't get in Canada from 2000 to 2003 are gap. There's really not much that Toonami show that would have been of use to us. I don't think Tenchi Muyo, haven't tried watching that lately. It's kind of...
I could barely watch it then, to be perfectly honest.
Yes.
Never a fan of that show.
Outlaw Star, I think it kind of needed to be edited for Toonami standards because I don't think it plays well on an adult block. That's just my opinion. I mean, there were two episodes actually cut from the Japanese broadcast of that, not just one, not just the Hot Springs episode.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so clearly there was some odd tonal issues in the show itself when it aired in Japan. You have to wonder, maybe Toonami did the right thing by editing it down for their standards, because now it's mostly a Toonami nostalgia piece.
Yeah, it certainly made an impact.
Yeah, and I don't think it would make an impact if it was an Adult Swim piece that aired a few years after.
Yeah. Okay.
Especially with Bebop being Bebop.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll move on to Leandra next. What do you think is a big missed opportunity?
I agree with what Brandy said about girls shows not being, Pretty Cure in general, but quite a few other animes of girl shows that could be marketed towards them on TV, because we see the popularity with My Little Pony and all kinds of things like Monster High and stuff. So there is an area where girls could be interested in anime too again, like in the Sailor Moon era. So there's just a lot of open space for that. All you see is Beyblade and Yu-Gi-Oh and all this stuff for boys, but there's really not that much for girls. So I think that's a really big missed opportunity. And I would say another missed opportunity is a lot of the new shows that have come out that Toonami gets. I know it has to do with licensing rights and stuff, but I don't know why YTV has stopped showing anime for an older demographic. I'm not sure what their whole change of plan was, but I think that's a pretty big missed part of it.
I think the reason that people keep citing was because they switched to a business model where what we call co-viewing, where they want to only air programs that they can sell advertising for both children and parents who watch television with them at the same time. And
Really
a 12 to 17 anime block doesn't
yeah,
really,
I just think
yeah.
that, yeah, some of the shows I have, it just seems like they're just too childish. Because, I don't know, growing up, I would watch stuff like The Last Unicorn and things like that you wouldn't really have a kid watching now, but to me back then that was pretty awesome. And so I think that they're treating kids like they're too stupid in a way, I think.
Well, most of the outright kid shows that are made in Japan are made more for an international audience than anything now.
Yeah.
It's not like in the late 80s or early 90s when, Ranma 1/2 was considered a children's show. So.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so I just think that there's just more room for that, and it would probably grip a lot of more audience and kind of bring them into it all. But I'm not sure if it's because that kids go on the internet more and don't really watch TV as much, and they don't see that as a working model anymore. But hopefully with the Toonami, and with the revival of that, maybe YTV will catch on, or some other station like that. Yeah, I'm trying to think of another Canadian station that would air anime, but
it's tough.
Yes.
Other than Space Channel, I remember seeing some movies, like earlier in the 2000s. They used to play some subtitles anime, but I have no idea what it was.
Yeah, there were a lot of people remember those titles. I think that airing them subtitled was, in retrospect, a big mistake because it probably put off more viewers than it brought in. That's the sad truth.
Yeah, like for me myself, I'm more of a subtitle fan, because after I got into Sailor Moon, then that was sort of a gateway into fan subbing, and that's where I got a lot of the illegal bootleg fan subs from a mall, the Portage Place Mall that we have in Winnipeg.
Ah, yes.
And so then from there, then I couldn't look back at dubs, so then I would just catch some on TV and be like, oh, well, I've already seen that. But it was sort of like, yeah, I wish more things were subtitled when I was younger, but I guess that, yeah, would turn off a lot of people.
I think the majority of people on this podcast can experience some shame buying stuff at that Portage Place location.
Yeah.
Oh yes. That was the only place to buy anime, period, for a long time, and
yeah,
it was bootleg quality for regular DVD prices, which is awful.
Yeah, like back when they were located on the Skywalk, and I think I was 12 or 11, and then I was like, oh my god, there's Sailor Moon, and so I just would buy one like once a week, so it was like $12 for a VHS with 4 episodes.
It was the CDs for me.
Oh yeah.
You can't, even though it was a bootleg, there's something irresistible about buying a Yoko Kano CD.
Yeah.
At my first con, I bought the second and third Cowboy Bebop OSTs, and I was so pissed off when I realized that they were bootlegs. But I mean, how could I have known? They look so real.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, it wasn't until my friend later told me that they were bootlegs and what logo to look for, and I was like, no! And then I was pretty mad after that.
They're getting more convincing now. I mean, apparently there's some Evangelion Platinum Collection bootlegs that look just like the ADV release that are floating around right now. So everyone be careful.
Yeah.
Especially on eBay.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Good thing I have my holiday special edition Ava discs already. And on the bootleg thing, I've never actually been to Pacific Mall myself, but a friend of mine bought a bootleg Darker Than Black set that didn't have subtitles on it.
Oh wow.
So like they come back and they're like, this doesn't work. Like, it's in Chinese.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Those are the worst, the Chinese bootleg subs with like I think they translated from Japanese to Chinese and then from Chinese to English, and you get this completely different translation that made no sense.
Yeah.
It's
one year,
awful ones.
One year I was at a tiny con in Toronto and a guy was desperate to sell me a Chinese copy of Trigun. And I was like, but there's no English on it. He's like, yeah, but it's really cheap. Like, it's not English.
I believe, Randy, there was a ChibiCon about 10 years ago where the winner of something won an Advent Children bootleg.
Yes, there was.
Yeah.
I worked that ChibiCon.
Man.
Yeah, I thought you did, yes.
Yes, absolutely I did.
Oh man. That was before, like, at ChibiCon, like, 'cause that's smaller than Icon, right?
Oh, way
Yeah.
smaller.
Yeah, I like kind of stopped going to Icon after it moved to the hotel place, but I just remember like pre days and like the bootlegs, and I'd be like, no, it's fake. But I guess now there's stricter laws and stuff that or not laws, rules in place about vendors bringing in that kind of stuff.
hmm I'm now like the official Icon bootleg finder, so.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah, so it's kind of really fun when you get to like, nope.
I was that one person online on the forums, and there was some guy selling like people's artworks on bags and buttons, and I just noticed it one time, and I started the topic on the forums about him like using people's fan art and like printing it on all this stuff and taking out their signatures and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But
Randy, do you know who the guests are for Icon this year?
No, I do not. I have
Not yet?
no idea. No. That's not privy to me yet.
So I once read this rumor that there was a bootleg version of Cowboy Bebop floating around that had a bootleg dub on it. And apparently Spike sounded like Swedish Chef or something. Have you guys ever heard about that?
I have never heard of that before, but I want a copy of that now.
I think it's complete bullshit, but
Yeah.
I've been curious about that for years.
It sounds like one of those urban legends.
That's where Cowboy Bebop and his computer came from.
Yeah.
Addison.
Yeah.
Cowboy
Yeah.
Bebop Addison.
So anyway, Ian, I think we'll move on to your missed opportunities now.
Okay, so this missed opportunity is pretty straightforward. I was talking about Teletoon before. Teletoon, overall, is the biggest missed opportunity in anime, animation. We know why they didn't pick up anime during the Bionics years after their manga titles. It's because they want to do co-productions.
Mhm.
That was their mission.
It's what brought us Spider Riders.
Yes.
Yeah.
We'll get to Spider Riders. That's fine, but if you want to do co-productions, you should be smart about it and try to develop relationships with studios and Western companies. So go after the studios like Sunrise, go after Madhouse, air those shows first. Whatever you can get just to see what the audience is into. If you're getting into making anime for yourself, find out what works and find out what doesn't work. I think Teletoon still was in this mindset that anime is best for the toy commercial audience of 6 to 11 year olds. That's why after all these years of no anime, we finally do get Spider Riders. And it's really disappointing because during this time also I noticed a tendency for the more auteur directors like Hideaki Anno, Ikuhara, and Shinichiro Watanabe to kind of not get a lot of work. And it's really a shame that Teletoon didn't realize, oh hey, this revolutionary girl tennis show seems to be really popular. It seems to be a lot like Cyber 6. Why don't we air it, and why don't we see if Ikuhara wants to collaborate with us on a future project? But again, we kept getting these toy commercial mindsets.
I always like to pretend that YTV aired Utena due to the success of Sailor Moon, but
Yeah.
that never really happened.
And you can always list the various anime that you think would have done really well on Teletoon. I was just imagining earlier, well, wouldn't it be cool if after Cyber 6 they aired Giant Robo? Because the look is kind of the same high quality animation, the same emphasis on visual storytelling. Wouldn't that be a cool way? I know that there was some issues with the license at the time. I don't know if manga had the license by 1999, but it seems like a missed opportunity there. It seems like a missed opportunity to have maybe Evangelion on Teletoon.
Well, the one thing they did have, they had a Ninja Scroll on there, right? Didn't they?
Yes,
Yep.
because that was during their manga title phase, and probably before they decided they were going to go into the co-productions. But
they aired those same manga titles for several years. I mean, even before you saw them in '99, they were airing at midnight. since I think 97.
Yeah.
And I always thought it was too bad that they didn't go back to manga for more stuff, because like they could have gotten Perfect Blue. That would have lined up on the timeline because it just came out in that time, but that never happened. Yeah.
Or Castle Cagliostro.
Yeah.
Manga really tried their best to enter the scene with the best titles possible. Like, they were in a partnership with Kenny Adomi's LA Hero, I think it was, or US Renditions, and they really got the best titles in the early 90s. Like Cross Plus, Gunbuster, Giant Robo, and there's a really good podcast, A&N podcast about, I think, Kevin Seymour.
Yeah.
I know this Kevin Seymour podcast, and I know maybe it's that one, because it was talking a lot about Kenny Adomi too, just about how they built up the anime industry in those years. So yeah, they should have built relationships with Japanese companies. We'll show some of these if you're interested in making some VAR projects. They should have had more interest in auteurs. They should have had more interest in the female demographics. And you get to a point where they're showing, I have no problem with it, but they're showing Rocket Robin Hood in their prime time. Like,
that was very prime time.
Yes. The best time slot.
The most amusing part was that it was back to back with Cyber 6. You could not get more of an extreme animation quality contrast than that.
Yeah. I kinda get why they did that. I kinda get why they thought, okay, Rocket Robin Hood is this really old show, but we know that there's people who are going to be watching it no matter what. Maybe they're on substances, but it will hold a certain percentage of people who aren't interested in the traditional American cartoons. But they never got anything comparable that could have really made use of that prime time slot.
Mm-hmm. I think a big problem with Teletoon, and I agree with all that stuff, but I mean, to this day, it seems at least the people who run the adult block, they just, I don't think they get anime. They just don't get it.
No.
No.
Yeah. I mean, with Toonami, I mean, they have people like Jason DeMarco and Sean Akins who did form kind of relationships with studios and things, and you know, people like Kenny Adomi, and were able to get things off the ground. It was like IGPX, and Big O Season 2, but I mean, they were able to make things happen. And I think it was really because they understood the content. And that really seems to be the big thing that Teletoon lacks, at least from what I can tell.
Yeah, I mean, there's trial and error, like Big O2, IGPX, them showing Gundam 0079. These are all trial and error, where sometimes they fail, but sometimes they really hit it big. But it seems like Teletoon, all we got for the past 5 years of waiting was Spider Riders, which was misunderstood the Canadian.
All comes back to Spider Rider.
Yeah.
It's too bad because like they had the Adult Swim cartoon market for the comedy side, but they never reached out to the action side, and they really could have
They didn't
done
treat
better.
Adventure Brothers really well either. So.
I would argue that they never really understood the comedy side either.
Yeah, they should have aired Venture Brothers when Rocket Robin Hood was airing.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
We've only just now gotten season 4 of that show.
Oh wow!
I think on Adult Swim Canada.
Like I stopped watching Teletoon back in like.
Teletoon doesn't seem to like it as a brand. Venture Brothers or anything. They prefer
Robot Chicken.
Yeah.
That's the only Adult Swim show that seems to stick on there.
Yeah.
I mean, I like to complain about the fact that they still aren't airing Rick and Morty, despite the fact that it gets, 3 times the ratings that Archer does in the US, but it doesn't seem that Rick and Morty's airing anywhere outside of the US at all, so, yeah, perhaps my blame is sort of misplaced on that one.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't Teletoon owned by Cartoon Network? I thought they owned it.
No, the Cartoon Network Canada is being run by Teletoon, but Teletoon is currently owned by Chorus, the same people who own YTV.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Cartoon Network Canada is pretty good. I mean, we get Steven Universe day and date with the US, I think, in all the big shows.
Uh-huh.
It works about as well as you would expect a Cartoon Network Canada to, despite the fact that I can't actually get it because it's not on Shaw.
Oh.
Yeah.
I hate that.
Yeah.
I wonder what station.
I don't get it either.
I wonder which station's going to win the battle when we go a la carte, Teletoon or Cartoon Network Canada.
I wouldn't be surprised if they both manage to stick around.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Nick Canada, on the other hand, I think its days are numbered. Okay, so is that everything, Ian?
Yeah.
Alright, so we'll move on to the third question then. Do you have any expectations for anime in the future on Canadian TV, or even just TV in general? And we'll start again with Randy.
My joke answer is that I want the anime network to come. That anime network that was supposed to come.
Oh, you mean YTV's?
YTV's anime channel. Never ended up coming.
Yeah.
No, my real answer is that I'd like, maybe just in TV in general, and try to get some more of the girl anime market. Cause it's a market that's been sorely overlooked, especially considering Sailor Moon's like popularity here and the showing that girls cartoons can do well here.
Yeah,
The fact that like they haven't tried to do anything with that like since Pretty Cure is astounding to me. Like they really should try something. I mean, like most of the girl shows in Japan right now are like idol shows like Aikatsu and like Prepara, and like I don't think those will work too well just because there's lots of singing. But like there has to be some kind of way to get a show up here for girls.
Yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Like, or even some kind of co-production they could try for, but seeing like, just for me, like, just seeing with the popularity with, like, Equestria Girls and My Little Pony and all that,
Mm-hmm.
Monster High and all that, like, there's something that they can fit in between there, or even, like, co-produce. Like, I think they did that with Monster High. They even did an anime special.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, I just think they could do more of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, something a little different from like the Beyblade clones would be nice.
Yeah.
It's just a co-production. Yeah.
Yeah. Cause like, it's good enough for the boys, but the girls have nothing. And like, just thinking about how popular, like, the girl market has been in Canada in general for anime. And like, to see like, that's not being serviced anymore is, it's kind of a tragedy, I think.
Yeah. I'm willing to bet that if a station were to pick up the rights to the new Sailor Moon dub, just, any digital station, they would probably reel in a lot of subscribers who otherwise wouldn't watch the station at all. And it could probably help them weather through the a la carte future too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think so too, especially, when you look at the sales with the Sailor Moon manga that came out, it was usually at the top for like New York Best Time Sellers list. So, like, even looking at that, there's a demographic for that somewhere. So, like, I'm sure they would have people come in and watch it.
And apparently those DVDs and Blu-rays are selling too, even though the video quality is complete garbage.
Yeah. Well, I just want the show. Like, everyone's just so desperate for it. They don't care about the video quality.
Yeah.
Like I know the video quality.
It's not that
awful, I'm still
surprising.
buying it.
Yeah.
Like, I have to. Like, there's no option for me.
I
Basically.
wish they'd realized that they should never release it on Blu-ray and just present the master's DVD quality on DVDs. But I understand that for anime purchasers, Blu-ray is important regardless of quality. So if they only sold DVDs, it would not have had the profile of a simultaneous DVD and Blu-ray release.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna hold up for another SKU on that one because I'm pretty sure this isn't the last SKU we're gonna see for Sailor Moon releases.
Oh, I'm sure it's not. And if it's fixed, I'll probably buy another copy of it. Like,
Yeah.
Like, that's
Well,
the way I
you're
roll.
one of the good ones, Randy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not buying that Sailor Moon release. Every time I go to an HMV, I walk by it and there's like a wall of them that they haven't sold, and I'm like, not today.
I just bought part 2, season 1 yesterday with
My local HMVs can't keep it in stock. It keeps flying off the shelves every time I go there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I guess there's people that just don't know about the quality, or they just don't notice, maybe?
Sailor Moon's a big title.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
It's in
I'll
Walmart.
be honest,
Like,
sometimes it's really hard to care about video quality. You do just want to own the show. Like,
Yeah.
I'm pretty anal about video quality myself, but if it comes down to owning the show, and if I really want the show, I'll buy the show. It's simple as that. If there's no other legal option available, then you can buy the show.
mm-hmm.
All right. So we'll move on to Phil next. Phil, any hopes or expectations from you?
Well, hopes is my only real hope is kind of that maybe a Canadian broadcaster or narrowcaster or whatever of some variety will pick up the kind of the cracks in the streaming, like whenever Viz streams something or if something's just streaming on Hulu, the stuff that we don't get, maybe they'd pick up the slack, cause, you know, if you're a specialty channel, you don't need a huge audience for a show to be a success. So, yeah, that's kind of pick up the slack that we've been left with region locking. And, you know, well, obviously I'd like more anime on TV. I'd like a reason to have cable again. Yeah.
Yeah, streaming is the worst part for Canada right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, my friend, she watches most of her anime on Netflix now, so she usually asks me what's good to watch, and then she goes on Netflix and watches it, because she couldn't be bothered to watch online anymore most of the time either. And on TV, she just says there's nothing in Canada to watch on TV, so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that shows that there's a lot of demand for curated content, too. I think that's going to be one of the big things about streaming in the next few years, is that, like, improving curation systems with that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think so.
Because there's just too much choice sometimes.
Yeah, there really is.
Like, you just get a wall of content, and it's like, well, what do I watch?
Any of us had watched Inuyasha had been streaming on Crunchyroll, and we had 20 different options that season.
No.
I
didn't watch Inuyasha when it was on TV.
Did anybody here watch Rine?
Nope.
Nope.
Zero interest.
Actually, I think Witch Hunter Robin suffers from that choose your own program too. I think you got 20 other options. Witch Hunter Robin would do pretty poorly in that regard.
Well, that show would really stand out today, but you know, we're talking 2004 though. So.
Yeah. But I don't think subscribers would stay with the whole show. I think it was much more interesting being an appointment viewer on YTV than it would be on Crunchyroll.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think so.
I will say that something like Inuyasha, the final act, that's something that I really can't be bothered to seek out, streaming or otherwise, but, you know, if somebody aired that on TV, I'd be tuning in every week.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something I don't just care about anymore. It's kind of almost over and done with, but if it's there, then you'll get it, but you don't want to go out of your way to get it, sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So, Leandra, any hopes or expectations for anime on Canadian TV?
Well, I really would kind of expect that, again, with Toonami's success, that maybe Teletoon would somehow change their ways, maybe have something late night again, how they used to have, because I think that would do really well too. Or even like, as what Randy said, I would like them to market more towards girls, as mentioned before.
Okay. Is that everything?
Yeah, I can't really think of anything else to say, sorry.
Alright, that's fine. Alright, so Ian, we'll finish off with your thoughts on possibilities or hopes for the future of anime on Canadian TV.
So I think in the previous podcast we were looking at the slate of shows that would do best on Canadian TV, like your Attack on Titans, your Space Dandies, your Kill la Kills.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
In a sense, thinking of that from that perspective is kind of pointless, because once you have that big crossover hit, you're not guaranteeing a place for anime long term. Now, there's still room for Attack on Titan to premiere on Canada, primarily because the next season's coming out in 2016. So you have that window there, but it's tricky when your hopes rely on just one show that's popular enough already. Again, the funny thing about Inuyasha was that it never had this buzz among anime fans. It was this new thing when it premiered on YTV. So I'm thinking, what new shows could we have? What shows could premiere on Canadian TV and be a surprise or develop an audience the way it hasn't been developed before? So I'm thinking of shows like maybe Mushishi or Gintama.
Yeah.
Something that a lot of people just don't watch regularly.
Mushishi, I think that if you aired it in the right place, it could find an audience.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a big risk, but I think it could find an audience if you put it in the right place.
And if you get both seasons, because now Funny has a season and Aniplex has a season.
Yeah.
Both seasons,
Still no word if they're dubbing that second season though.
Right. That.
Yeah.
Right.
I hope they are.
Yeah, I really hope so too.
Also, with something like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, a lot of people jumped on that season in season 3. If a Canadian broadcaster showed the first 2 seasons, there would be even amongst anime fans, there would be a sense of, oh wait, I haven't seen this before. This looks different from what I've been watching. I'll tune in for this. And if they get that done before the Blu-rays come out, then Canada has to step up in that regard.
Mm-hmm. And that dub was really well received too.
Yeah.
Like when they aired the season 3 dub on Crunchyroll, a few months back, people really attached to it. So I think that the dubbing efforts would be really good for that show.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome. Something that just occurred to me was, cause JoJo's was brought up, those shows are popular in Italy, and at least, I'm not sure if there's an Italian specialty channel here in Southern Ontario. I'm not sure if it's nationwide or whatever. It'd be kind of neat to see them play some of the shows that are popular in Italy, but not super popular in North America, for the Italian Canadian audience that would watch them.
That makes sense, yeah.
Alright, that's my family background, so.
Well, the French language channel should also be proactive in that regard too.
Yeah, it would be something that neat, to maybe see if the newer generation Canadian audience from various places in Europe would respond to anime which are popular in those parts of Europe.
It's so weird that the French anime just dried up after the 90s, and how no stations really, well, Teletoon aired a couple of things. They aired Card Captors and they aired Naruto in French. But it's weird how, obviously there's a huge audience for anime in Quebec, and none of the stations really tried to capitalize on that. I always thought it would be a neat idea if somebody had done a Quebec dub of Inuyasha, because if I'm not mistaken, it was never even dubbed into French at all. That would have been a cool thing to try.
Mm-hmm.
So the other thing is that TV channels, they have new scheduling methods based on DVR use. So you'll see the 10 episode marathon of something on a Saturday afternoon. AMC will show marathons of Breaking Bad for the next 60 years. Or as long as they can renew their license from Sony or whatever. So it'll be interesting if they do get anime. Can you show 12 episode marathons of Attack on Titan or Kill la Kill or things like that, and they can pile up in your DVR, which I imagine Space is doing it right now. They do it with Orphan Black. FX does it a lot too. FX Canada, I should say, because they're a bit different than FX US. And that's just another interesting thing we can see. Oh, and another really good show for that would probably be Cowboy Bebop. I think there is a window now, if a Canadian station can get the HD masters from Cowboy Bebop before they appear on, say, Netflix, that could bring in a lot of audiences.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to see it show up on Netflix too.
Yeah.
Because even though it requires you to, make that click, that will still be the best exposure it's gotten here.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of, finding the right show for the surprise audience, even if Teletoon has no intention of getting anime in their adult block, I'm kind of surprised they haven't given Space Dandy a shot, because, on one level it's that animator playground kind of show, but at its heart it's a bro comedy, and that fits right in with what Teletoon is trying to do with their late night stuff right now.
Yeah, I was kind of annoyed that I couldn't watch Space Dandy dubbed anywhere. I
really rare. I had to put my eye patch on for that.
Yeah, I got shiver me timbers arg to get that dub, because I wanted to watch it. It was really good. But there was no way to watch it legally for me.
Has anyone seen that Space Dandy commercial for the DVDs that Adult Swim made?
Oh yeah, that was great.
Yeah, Ian Sinclair reprising his role live action. That's
those were pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Between Funimation's aesthetic, Adult Swim's aesthetic, and even Watanabe's aesthetic, honestly.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that ad. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
All right, so before we finish off, someone actually did send in a couple of questions.
Oh, cool.
So from Amir Adriz, he asked, did you think Zatchbell was successful? If yes or no, explain why. Also, give your thoughts on 2008 Bionics, And by 2008 Bionics, I guess he means when Bionics was moved to Saturdays. In terms of whether or not Zatch Bell was successful, I guess it was, because YTV aired every episode that was dubbed, whereas Cartoon Network did not.
I liked Zatch Bell quite a bit.
Yeah.
That was a weird show that I wouldn't have watched otherwise. It's one of those shows that definitely benefited from airing on TV, because there was nothing else on, and it was just this weird, bizarre, almost like monster fighter kind of show, but they talked, and it was dark at times. It was this weird, bizarre kind of show.
Yeah, that was definitely the highlight of 2008 Bionics.
Yeah.
I was not a big fan of it, so
Mm-hmm.
I guess that means that I was not a big fan of 2008 Bionics. I had pretty much stopped following the block at that point, to be perfectly honest.
Me too.
Yeah,
I knew its days were numbered as soon as it was moved to Saturday.
I tuned out of Bionics by 2008, and I don't remember watching Zatch Bell, so it might have been earlier than that.
All right, great. Again, I'd still like to get more questions from you guys, so if you want to submit them, you can tweet me at jbetteridge or submit them on the contact form on the website. Well, thanks a lot, guys. I think we had a really good discussion today.
Thanks, Jesse.
Yeah, thanks
Yeah,
for
thanks,
having me on.
Well, that was Zon in Canada. Hope you enjoyed the show. Big thanks to Randy, Phil, Leandra, and Ian for coming on today. You can find the show's website at zonan.ca. Please feel free to leave us a comment. Theme song is by Ultraklystron. You can check out his stuff at ultraklystron.com. If you know anybody who might like this show, please recommend it. See you all next time.